Good evening, everybody. Today is Monday, August 21st, 2017. It's 6:30 p.m. It's time for the Selectmen meeting. First order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item number 2 is acceptance of minutes. We have the minutes of July 24th, 2017. Mr. Siganovich.
I would like to make a motion that we accept the minutes of July 24th, 2017.
Motion by Mr. Siganovich. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ruda. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Next is the executive minutes of July 24th, 2017.
Mr. Chair, make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented, but not to be released at this time due to the fact that the issues are not resolved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Item number 3 is appointments. We
Mr.
have...
Chairman, I'll make a motion to reappoint the following as election workers with terms to expire of 8/15/2018.
Mr. Ruda. Second. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Seconded by Mr. Siganovich. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just ask that we don't read the names and just have them posted on the website. It's the
Okay.
people
They know
curious.
who they are?
Yes.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. We also have another appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals, Bill LePage Jr., with the term to expire 6/30 of 2022.
Mr. Levy's here.
Is he here? Yeah. Come on up. Yeah. And you speak into the microphone and tell everybody your name and where you live and all that good stuff.
I'm Bill LePage Jr. I live in Dudley, Massachusetts on Ellis Ave. I work at Coco's Machine Shop. I'm a machinist, and I own a small business in Worcester, another machine shop.
Okay.
I'm volunteering to help out in the zoning board. My father told me there was a gap to fill, and I'd like to help out.
Okay. That's great. Board members?
This is for full-time, not an alternate, right? Full-time?
Right. This is, yeah, Bill took the latest full-time one.
Absolutely.
So that leaves us with how many vacancies? 1 full and 2?
I think so.
Alternates?
Yeah, I think so, Steve. That leaves us one, because right now we're presently at 3 members. It's a 5-member committee. So that'll leave us with 1 full, 2 alternates.
Mr. Chair, before we appoint Mr. LePage,
Mr. Sullivan?
can we please put a public plea out there? Some of these committees have been running shorthanded for a long time, and we need qualified volunteers, not even qualified, we need people to step up to please volunteer. Some of these boards and commissions having trouble with quorums, hosting meetings. We need people that are involved in the community like Mr. LePage and be active. That's all I have to say.
Please, Michelle, if we could put another, how are we advertising that? We're on the website? Okay. I don't know if we have, maybe it's something to add in the paper or something like that at some point. Cable? Oh, it's on
Cable
cable
as
too?
well.
Okay, good. Okay. Anybody else have any questions for
Just
Mr.
thank him for
LePage?
stepping forward.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, we haven't voted on you yet.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, so, yeah, as always, again, to
It's like a
what's-
rubber stamp.
what Mr. Sullivan just said, I mean, it's good that you came. I know that board in particular has had a challenging couple of years, and interest sort of has fallen off, but it's important that people get back in there and help their town, so thank you.
Thank you.
Is this a 3-year appointment?
It is.
3-year appointment.
Well, 2022. Wait,
I just want to make a motion, and I want to make sure I do it.
term 2022, that's a 5-year. It's a 5-year, I'm sorry.
5-year
I'm sorry.
appointment. Now I have to do math.
No, it's right there, 6/30
20.
to 2022.
You gotta be able to read,
Till
not math.
6:30 to 22. Yeah, I could read, too. I'd like to make a motion that we appoint William LePage Jr. to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term to expire June 30th, 2022.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Siganovich, seconded by Mr. Ruda. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, appreciate it.
And your service, too, as a
Yes,
veteran.
yes. We also, unfortunately, have a resignation tonight. We have a reserve police officer, Ryan Matt. Chief, anything you want to add?
It's a good one, though. It's a
Yeah.
sad one.
I
but a
know,
good one.
I know, but that's why I wanted you
Yes,
to...
Ryan Matty
your
was
man.
appointed about, I think it was 2.5 years ago, 2.5 or 3 years ago to the reserve force. Worked very well for us. He recently sponsored himself through the police academy, and he took a full-time job in the town of Acton. So did a great job for us. We do miss him around here, and wish him all the best in the future going forward.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Reserve Police Officer Ryan Matty and thank him for his service.
Second. Mr. Chair, also,
Motion and a second.
also add that, nice letter from the town thanking him for his service and good luck in the future, signed by you on behalf of the board.
Love it. Great idea. Thank you, Ryan. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. All right, public comments. Is there anybody here tonight who'd like to speak on something that's not on tonight's agenda?
How you doing? My name is Michael DuBois, 2 Jesse Road. I just want to let the board know that I'm very disappointed what was said. I had, as I know Mr. Ruda, Mr. Morrissey, you have young children. So don't I. Tried to explain to my son why things were said that wasn't appropriate. And as a town, living in this town over 20 years, I'm embarrassed, truly embarrassed. And I've been knowing Mr. Guyon about the same time I've been living here at this town. And I'm sure you gentlemen that have children don't ever want to have the conversation why this happened, okay? As an Afro-American living in this town, I'm very offended, because this should have never happened. He's an official in this town, and he's supposed to act like an official in this town. I pay my taxes. I don't feel it's right for me have to pay for something like this. It's embarrassing. Very embarrassing. And maybe you don't understand where I'm coming from, but when you experience something like this as an Afro-American, that you thought someone didn't feel that way, it hurts. It really hurts. It's only two types of people in this world that speaks the truth: when they've been drinking or when they're angry. That's when they put everything out there. And I'm really disappointed in this town that made a comment about what he's done in this town. What difference does it make what he did? Anybody in this town works hard and goes up the ladder just like everybody else, okay? For an official to making a comment, well, he worked this and worked that, it's not right. It is not right. What difference does it make? Okay? And, you know, I have a forgiving heart. And I forgive Danny Guyon for saying what he said. But it doesn't make it right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak on something not on the agenda? Danny?
Mr. Chairman, I have a prepared statement. I don't know if Mr. Dubois is going to be here for the whole meeting, but I can either say it now or say it at the end of the meeting.
Well, now's a good time, Dan.
Now? Mr. Chairman, I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely apologize to the Board of Selectmen, Town Administrator, and the citizens of the town of Dudley for my insensitive comment in an online discussion in response to some harsh words directed at me for my opinion on a video that was being discussed, which quickly got heated and a little out of hand. I never should have let my emotions get the best of me. Sitting in my home on a Monday night around 9:30, the furthest thing from my mind was that I was acting in the capacity of a town employee. I understand that the comment I made wasn't right and certainly brought a negative light to the good town of Dudley and upset a lot of people, especially the African-American community. My apology is from the heart and totally sincere. I should have been more professional and thought of what I was saying before I posted it. We all make mistakes. You have to learn from them so you can move on and be a better person. And that's what I intend to do. And with that, Mr. Chairman, that's my statement.
Mr. Dubois, thank you for coming forward. I know that was difficult for you to do that. I know that you're referring to the article that was in the Telegram. We haven't made any statements on this. I think the person who wrote that story was talking about what we have said in the past. I want you to know that, okay? You sure can.
Mr. Marcy, I'm trying to understand something here. And you guys as a board, you gentlemen as a board, let me apologize to you, you gentlemen as a board should have nipped this at the bud in a quick fashion instead of letting people stew over things. I've got so many calls. My mother in Washington, D.C. called me and says, where are you living at? Why is this the case? Okay? For the select board not to address this situation, it's heartbreaking.
Okay. Well, let me tell you what's going on. We have, before that story was even written, we were working on addressing that. I want to tell you that, right, first and foremost, and we are going to be dealing with this in executive session after this meeting. Okay? We had, wait for our meeting cycles to happen.
Well,
But this isn't going away.
Well, I'm hoping that it's not going away because you need to be responsible for that.
Understood?
I can't stress it enough. And like I said, I've been knowing Mr. Guyon for a long time.
No.
I coached his son,
I know.
okay? And anytime someone comes to me and says, hey, you should do something for the town, I step up for the town. I try to do my best for the town.
Always have.
But it's disheartening as an Afro-American man to deal with these situations. It's what's going on in this country today. It's hard. And like I said, you have children, Ms. Ruda has children. How would you like to sit up there and talk to your children about this situation? It's not right. And if we sweep it under the rug, then we're telling our children it's okay to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Mr. Clark, come on up.
Richard Clark, Airport Road. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, Mr. Clark.
When I was last before you, I spoke to the issue of speeding in the town of Dudley. And subsequent to that, there was an article that appeared in the Webster Times. And that article, as I recall, concluded that all parties were content, or something to that effect. I don't consider myself to be content. I think the wording was something that all parties were content and something would be done. I wasn't clear as to what the something was supposed to be, and I don't consider myself content, so I'd like to correct the record if I may, and if there's someone here from the Webster Times, I hope that they're hearing me. And I hope to appear before you again with regards to this issue, because it's still there, it's not going away, and it is a public safety concern, and I think, again, as I've said before, we're living on borrowed time with this.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Clark. Webster Times, you're here, you heard that, Chief? Okay. Anybody else like to hear anything that's not currently on tonight's agenda? Okay, we'll move on. Licenses and permits under Section 5, Nichols College, and the great Lynn Luby is here. There's 5 licenses they're asking for. First is an outdoor entertainment license for a Saturday. Go ahead, so.
I'm just going to recuse myself.
Yep.
Because I think some of these involve
Yeah, I think so.
alcohol licensing.
Clock is going. We'll say what time you left, but
6:49.
6:49, Mr. Sullivan stepped away.
If I may,
Go ahead, Mr. Joseph.
none of these are for alcohol.
One said beer garden.
Beer garden,
Right?
I
Beer
saw.
garden.
Yeah, I saw beer garden.
What? No.
Beer is alcohol.
None of these are for alcohol licenses, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Right.
so Steve doesn't have to recuse himself.
So one that said beer garden.
These are all
I saw
outdoor
beer garden
entertainment.
as well.
Yeah.
look quickly.
Just outdoor entertainment
Oh.
licenses.
Okay?
Yep.
You want to take the
Anyway.
motions, Paul, for these?
Okay, Steve, you comfortable?
Well, yeah, I just saw beer garden, so I
I know.
assumed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Lynn, you want?
Let me, the issue is not beer garden, the issue is outdoor entertainment licenses.
Okay, you raised the issue as alcohol.
No, I
Well,
didn't.
I did, I must have, because you guys had that special license now through the state, right?
Right.
Right.
You have a special license for the campus, so you don't come to us for alcohol. These are, all four of these requests are for outdoor entertainment licenses. Okay, all right?
Okay, you want to do the honors, Paul?
Yep.
Please?
And then, Chief, I'll ask if you have any concerns about any of the events, if anything is out of the ordinary. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move that we grant outdoor entertainment licenses to Nichols College for the following 4 events.
Okay.
All right? Saturday, August 27th, 5 to 8 p.m. on the guest house lawn. Saturday, September 2nd, from 2 to 9 p.m. on the Copper Beach Quad. Saturday, September 9th, from 6 to 9 p.m. on the Copper Beach Quad. And Saturday, September 30th, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the Nichols College Field and Lower Campus for homecoming. And then finally, I'm sorry, there's actually 5. And then Saturday, October 14th, from 2 to 4 p.m. on the Copper Beach Quad.
Second.
Yep.
Motion by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Sigenovich. Discussion, Mr. Clark?
Could there
Could he
be
come
some
up? Could he come
clarification
up?
here as far as how many of
I
How many of
okay.
these events might have or might be serving alcoholic beverages?
Lynn?
To my knowledge, what we discussed is the only one that will be is there are actually 2, the beer garden, which is for the senior class only, and then homecoming, there'll be tailgating.
And may I ask also how that is going to be supervised? I mean, who is going to be serving? Are these people licensed to serve in the state of Massachusetts?
We'll let the chief answer that, because he's been dealing with that for quite a while.
I'm asking because I live about one 16-ounce can away from the Nichols campus.
All right, but let the chief, can you comment on
Understood.
that? Because you've been dealing with
Understood,
that for a
Mr.
while.
Clark.
All tips certified.
Yeah, I'll tip.
Sorry, John.
No, no. I got it all.
Yes, as you know, the caterer, the food and beverage service up there has their catering license issued through the state. So we meet with them periodically with whatever events they're having up there and coordinate police officers and public safety officials, as well as campus chaperones to be present at all the different events. To my knowledge, all the servers are tip certified, and the program runs under a proper license up there at the campus. That's why they don't come before you every time for a
Right.
liquor license every time that happens. But they've worked very well with us over the years since that happened to make sure that all the events are properly supervised, and they're hiring police officers at the events when they're determined to be applicable.
Question?
Mr. Joseph?
Chief, is it your understanding that if the expected crowd, and Lynn, is it your understanding that if there's an expected crowd size that might place a burden on the campus police, that you would provide a detail? Is that the understanding we have at Nichols?
Oh, yes, well, we go over them all, just about all of them that take
Okay.
place up there. We have coverage up there, so.
Any student event where alcohol is going to be served by our dining services, Sodexo, who holds the license, we always have at least one Dudley Police detail.
Thank you.
But that depends on the number of students, people attending, and that increases. And that's what Chief Weiner and our Director of Public Safety, Jack Caulfield, discuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Anybody else have any questions? Mr. Clark, anything else? Gary?
It's like carrying coals to Newcastle.
On Saturday, September 30th, the event that's sponsored by the Alumni Office, you're selling tickets to alumni for that event, correct? That's an event targeted toward the alumni.
Not for the It's targeted for the alumni because it is a homecoming event. We aren't selling, we are offering spaces for tailgating, and they don't have to buy them. It's a first come, first served, reserved type of thing for our alumni.
I got the postcard in the mail and I saw that. I just wanted to clarify for Mr. Clark's benefit that it wasn't going to be all students, it was going to be,
That's
actually,
alumni only.
I'm going to be there with a few people I graduated with, so. Right.
Upstanding members of society, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I think Mr. Clark's question, to go to
Mr.
Mr. Clark's
Sullivan.
question, application for the first event, approximate number of people expected 400. Would that trigger a Dudley Police detail
Good question. Chief?
or two? And then,
There's a lot of people at that event.
and then the one that Mr. Siganevich just referenced, the approximate number expected is 200. Would that number trigger?
I think a lot of it depends on the types of events and things that are going on, because don't forget, you have 800, 900 resident students on the campus. So when you have people in a dining hall, you have, a few hundred people in a dining hall at one time. So it depends what the event is, and generally, if it's not an event that's actually serving alcohol and there's more potential for some type of problem, most of them aren't requiring police officers there for each thing that happens.
No, I understand the dining hall, but
Well, at any campus event, I mean, anybody who's gone to college understands, any campus event that takes place, you're gonna have probably a few hundred people that are there. If you have
Let's
20% of your population.
let's establish something here.
Mr.
We
Joseph.
have required Nichols, number one, to get a license. This year, it's Sodexo that has the license. They're the permittee. We have always required controlled serving and consumption area. We've always required either Dudley Police or a combination of Nichols Police and Dudley Police. So my question is, has any of that changed this year?
No.
If I may, Mr. Chairman? Mr. Clark, I want to make sure we answer all your questions. Have you got any additional questions that we can address?
No, I can't attest to the consumption aspect of that because I picked up numerous beer cans and other assorted alcoholic beverage containers.
Not on the campus?
Not on the
Yeah.
campus, no, they found their way off the campus.
Yep.
my point, Mr. Chair, just was,
Sullivan.
Chief, somebody's mentioned something about a certain amount would trigger a police detail. And 400 is a big number. If it's 900 kids on campus, students, and you're assuming 400, you're looking at 50% of the population. Whether they're all students or not, I'm not sure, but and you said Nichols Police, they don't have police, they have public safety. It's a big difference when it comes to level of training, level of control.
Oh, yeah, there's no question.
So listen, I can hear it from my house, they don't bother me. That's a big number. 400 is a lot of people. 200 is a lot of people. That's all.
Well, again, I think it depends on the type of event you're looking at, depends what type of supervision that they have there. And again, if alcohol is not being served at the event and the thing is under control, we generally, for most of these things in the past, haven't had any problems. And the school's been running up there for 200 years. So in the 29 years that I've been around, when issues have taken place, we've addressed them. And things take place on the campus all the time.
When I was at Worcester State, we went through so many different phases of alcohol consumption and acceptance and rejection. And the principle that I believe in, and I know that you do, Lynn, and the president does, and I'm sure our chief does, is better to have more police than what you need than to explain to parents or neighbors why you didn't have enough after the fact.
Yep.
Okay, anybody have anything else?
So no booze at Function A?
Ask Lynn.
That's the impression I'm getting by the answers. There's not gonna be alcohol at
Just at
Function
those
A.
other two.
The Welcome Back Cookout for students on August 27th, no beer or wine will be served at that event. The only event that is having beer or wine served is the beer garden for the class of 2018.
So
There will be beer and wine at homecoming, but it is not being served.
it's bring your own. Bring your
For
own,
alumni.
Yes.
BYOB.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor?
Yep, we have a motion.
And a
Anything else?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
One abstention.
Abstentions?
One.
4-0, one abstention, Michelle.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just while Mr.
Chief?
Lee's here, if you have item B under 9, public business, that's just to approve the parking waiver for the west side of Center Road. That would be on Saturday, September 30th, from 9 to 5. That's for the homecoming weekend.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move by consent that we
let's do
take
that.
item 9B out of order.
Yep.
That we grant Nichols College a parking waiver to park on the west side of Center Road, from Healy Road to the area of the Olson Residence Hall on Saturday, September 30th, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. for homecoming.
Motion by Mr. Joseph. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Sigenovich.
They are hiring police officers that day as well, so that would,
Okay.
they'll be on hand for
Okay.
that.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank
Okay, we'll jump back up to number 6, Town Administrator's Report. Greg?
Gentlemen, good evening to you. Just a couple of quick updates. We received notification from Bay Path Regional that our fiscal 2018 assessment is being reduced by $5,299. That's as a result of the final state budget, which was adopted, and certainly good and welcome news for the town to receive that amount of money back. And I thank Superintendent of Schools and the school committee for doing that. The second thing I wanted to provide you with an update on is I met this past week with a representative from the Win Company. That's W-I-N-N. They're a company in Boston. And they have plans to redevelop the Stevens Mill into 90 units of housing. So an opportunity to meet with the developer along with the town planner. We had a good first session, but of the 90 units, about 73% of those would be single bedroom. The remaining would be combination of 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and 3-bedroom, 2 bath. So 2-bedroom would be the maximum size. They're cognizant of the town's concerns about educational costs and cost of town services, so that number of units in terms of the mix may be subject to change. But they plan on using the low-income tax credit program and applying for a grant through the Department of Housing and Community Development, which would be about August of 2018. So there wouldn't be any construction work that would take place until the grant would be awarded sometime after August of 2018. But it was a positive first meeting, and it's good to see that there is a developer on board to bring that property back into a good state of repair. There's also, I think as the board has asked for in the past, a small portion of the project that's going to be dedicated for commercial use. There's no particular tenant that's been identified right now, but the developer will be working with myself and the planner in terms of making sure that that's prominent as the plan does move forward. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Question?
Mr. Joseph?
Does that mean that Win is only the developer, or would they become the property owner also?
So there's a purchase and sale on the property, so Win would actually be the owner of the property.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Greg. Item 7 is around town, focusing on local businesses. We don't have that tonight. Item 8, we have a public hearing tonight, and it's another dangerous dog hearing. Brian and Catherine Ciccarelli of 20 Ash Lane, Dudley, Mass. They're here. Come on up, guys, please.
Mr. Chairman, is Sergeant
Mr.
Popowski available tonight? Is he working tonight?
Chief, is the sergeant available tonight? Okay. All right. And Mr. Valiakonis, how do we want to start? How do we
I
want to
do.
start this?
So what I would ask the board to do is it's a public hearing. There's a notice that was sent to the Ciccarellis on August 16 of 2017. And for the purposes of the public, I'll read it. Pursuant to the Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 157, you are hereby notified The Dudley Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Monday, August 21st, 2017, at 6:30 PM in the Dudley Municipal Complex, 71 West Main Street, Dudley, Mass., in the Veterans Memorial Hall, Room 321A, in order to hear testimony relative to a written complaint received in this office on August 16th, 2017, from Maggie Lavassiere, 14 Catherine Street, Dudley, Mass., about their dog Honey being attacked on August 15th, 2017, by one of your dogs. If you have any questions or should need additional information, please contact me at 949-8001. So the copy of the letter also went to the Selectmen, the Animal Control Officer, Mrs. Fitzgerald, who's present this evening, and Maggie Lavassiere, who's the individual who did file the complaint. You have a copy of the letter that's been attached from Ms. Lavassiere outlining the incident in question. You also have an email that was received from Mr. Davies, and a copy of the report from the Animal Control Officer, who is present this evening to answer any questions you might have about the report that's here. Various violation notices which have been attached, and the report from the sergeant from the police department. So I would turn it back to you. That's the information that's been included in your packet.
So let's open the public hearing at 7:05 PM. Okay. Probably should also ask the animal control officer to come up. Jen, please. Hi, Jen.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Ruda.
was there a written notice sent to the owner of the dog after the last hearing?
Yeah, there was.
Outlined, can I see a copy of that?
Yeah,
Outline
sure.
what the remedies were at that point?
Yes. And we'll get that.
Okay, while we're waiting for that, Jen, could you, explain what you saw when you got there? Please.
Yes. On Tuesday, August 15th, 2017, I had received a phone call from the Dudley Police Department reporting that there was an incident up at 20 Ash Lane involving the Ciccarelli's dog. I then responded up there, and when I approached the scene, Mrs. Ciccarelli came out, explained the situation on what had happened. I was also we were standing with Mrs. Ciccarelli and the other owner of Honey. They both agreed on what had happened, and that pretty much was that Chance was in the garage, and I don't know if accidentally or they just didn't realize he was in the garage, and Mrs. Ciccarelli's daughter had opened the garage as Honey and her owner were walking by on leash, and he had come out and attacked the golden retriever. I did look at the golden retriever for any wounds that I could see. I saw a little bit of irritation on one of the ears, but other than that, there were no other puncture wounds that I could notice. There was no blood or anything like that. I took down all the information. I wrote up my report. I have the dog under a 10-day quarantine at my shelter. And we're here.
Okay. Brian, Kathy, you want to tell us your side, please?
First off, I want to start off by the notification from the town that this was not notified, that this was going to be a dangerous dog hearing. The letter stated that there was a complaint from someone from 14 Ash Lane submitted to your office. So I'm reading on the agenda that is classified as a dangerous dog hearing. So we were not notified appropriately. Secondly...
Let me interrupt for a sec, Brian.
Yep.
Mr. Joseph.
I'm fair, and we're not stupid. Did you think for some reason it was for some other purpose, knowing what had happened on the 15th? Tell me truthfully, did you think it was possibly for any other purpose?
Yes, discuss the issue at hand, and then you could go into the dangerous dog hearing.
Okay.
Get your evidence.
Okay.
Okay.
That's how I took it.
Okay.
So, since the incident, there have been reports, there have been emails that we have not been privy to due to our work schedule. So the information that you have in front of you, we have not seen. Secondly, this is an incident pertaining to a dog owner of 14 Catherine Street. So, at this point, I feel extremely uncomfortable with this hearing. I feel extremely uncomfortable with the people that are sitting here because I have a court order from Mr. Davies that he cannot come within 50 yards of me at any time, that the Dudley Police Department is well aware of it. And why he is sending an email based upon an incident he was not involved in is harassment in my eyes, and him being here tonight with no reason, I feel he's in complete violation of this court order, and I would like him to be removed immediately,
Can I
if
ask
not
a-
arrested.
Let me ask a question.
Mr. Joseph.
That's between you and him. Hold on. Let's get this sorted out. Chief, in your opinion, is there anyone in this room who is in violation of a restraining order or a stay-away order? To your knowledge?
Can you show that to Chief? The individuals being referred to did stop at our desk downstairs. It's a public meeting, an open session, and it involves an issue on their street. So he is not to have any contact with anybody here in violation of the order. However, we can deny him from being at an open public hearing in regards to an issue that's on a street. I don't believe we can. So he has been instructed not to have any contact or not to make any comments with anything. And we'll make arrangements for him to leave separately so that no other violations take place outside the open forum.
You catch that?
I did. It was a public meeting, though I heard.
Yep.
So at this point, then, I don't believe we should have a public meeting on this. I believe it should go into executive session.
On what grounds?
On grounds I feel that this is not going to be a fair hearing.
What's your basis for that?
Look behind me.
Oh, wait a minute. No, wait a minute. No, wait, Brian. He hasn't said anything. He doesn't have a vote, all right? He's not doing anything at this point. If there's a problem between a restraining order and you and him, then it's up to you and he to work it out with the courts. But what does his being here have to do with us taking a vote? He doesn't have a vote.
Excessive stress and anxiety.
Mr. Chair, I think that's the
Mr. Sullivan.
request for executive session, I think, is
I don't think it's
probably
grounds.
not apropos at this time, because I don't believe that falls under any guideline that would require executive session, any latitude that we have. Executive session is very structured, and I don't
Fine.
believe.
Right.
You know what? I mean, we can get a ruling from Greg, whether or not he talks with the town council or not, but I think we should go ahead with the public hearing. If the Ciccarellis have an objection, then they should file an objection to it, but I think we have an obligation to hold a public hearing, all right?
We do.
Could I ask, what was it you thought that the notice to appear here today was about? What did you think?
The notice specifically said to appear based upon a dog complaint from a resident from Catherine Street.
From where?
Catherine Street.
Is that where Ms. Lavasser lives?
I don't know, I've never been there.
I'll have to ask the chief. See if we can get an answer on that.
That's where I live. Catherine
Sorry?
Street.
Oh, she's here. Oh.
Did she come up?
Oh, come on up.
Come on up and join us,
I'm
please.
sorry, I didn't know you were here.
Let's move it this time.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
speaking up.
Yes. Sorry about that. Weren't aware you were here.
So, would you tell us, in your words, what happened?
Sure.
Jen?
My name is Maggie Lavasser. I do live at 14 Catherine Street, just to clarify that. On the evening of August 15th, my golden retriever, Honey, who is a 10-year-old, very passive dog, was attacked by the Ciccarelli's dog. I was out for a walk with my 11-year-old daughter, MJ, and our two dogs. As we were traveling on Ash Lane, approaching the Ciccarelli's house from 22 Ash Lane, I had observed some dogs in the garage area of 20 Ash Lane. That door was open as we approached. It was not opening It was open, there was people in the driveway. I alerted my daughter that there was dogs because I couldn't tell if they were restrained, so I just wanted to make her aware. As we got closer, a couple of the dogs came out of the garage directly at myself and my daughter as we were on the sidewalk. None of the dogs were on leashes or restrained. I had observed at least 3 dogs. I began to scream to alert the people who were outside. In the blink of an eye, one of the dogs had my golden retriever in his jaw. The other dog was restrained before he got to us. I believe that was a white bulldog type dog. My golden retriever was bitten on her hind quarter, her side, and eventually pinned down by the side of her head and ear area to the sidewalk. There were 2 to 3 large adult males attempting to pry this dog off of my dog as she was crying and even peed herself in the struggle. Once the dog was removed, he was taken by Mr. Ciccarelli to the house, and I didn't see that dog again. I told the group to call the police. Mrs. Ciccarelli was very apologetic and offered assistance after the attack. She advised me to send her my vet bills and gave me her contact information. I heard a young lady say to Mrs. Ciccarelli that this is the 3rd collar he has run through, assuming she was talking about the collar the dog had on. Mr. Ciccarelli, who I have learned is an EMT for the town of Charlton, offered no assistance to myself, my daughter, or my dog after the attack. He sat in a chair in his garage and didn't even come out when the police showed up. As an EMT, he's bound to a code of ethics which specifically states to provide services based on human need with compassion and respect for human dignity, and he failed to do so. The police and the dog officer showed up about 5 to 10 minutes later, took some information from me, and Officer Poplawski gave us a ride home as we were about a mile away. It is reprehensible that this even occurred, as I have learned since the incident that this dog has been involved in at least 3, if not 4 other incidents, making my dog the 4th or the 5th victim. This dog and its owners have been in front of this board in the past and somehow been allowed to keep this dog. It is very unfortunate that the dog is likely going to be euthanized due to the incompetence of the owners and complete gross negligence of the owners and the board. Based on my research of this matter, it appears this board bears liability on the attack of my dog and subsequent injuries to her, as well as mental anguish suffered by my 11-year-old daughter and myself, because this dog should have been euthanized prior to this incident, and the board failed to protect us. When you own a dog, there is a strict liability assessed, and as the owner, you are liable for your animal at all times, in all situations. My daughter, MJ, really is the victim in this attack. She has had trouble sleeping since the attack, thinking about the what-ifs, and stated that she will never go for a walk again. There is absolutely no explanation that can be made that would make any sense at this point. We have had several people reach out to us since this incident, unsolicited, to let us know that this attack and have been involved with the Ciccarellis in regards to this animal in some other fashion. It is my opinion that this dog be euthanized, as the owners have proven complete and total incompetence and lack of understanding in the care and control of this dog. It is also my recommendation that any other dogs the Ciccarellis own be removed from their care and placed elsewhere, as well as their right to own a dog in the town of Dudley be revoked for life. They have proven to this town that they are not fit to own animals and don't have common sense to restrain a dog that has proven to be extremely aggressive. This cannot be allowed to happen again. The only way to ensure that it doesn't is for you, the Board of Selectmen, to take the appropriate action to protect the citizens that have elected you to this board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Louser. Okay. As for the subject of executive session, there's the very special circumstances, Brian, that we can do that. Mr. Ruda, you want to read those, please?
Greg, were you here for Mr. Ciccarelli asked to move into executive session and discuss?
No, I stepped out.
So I'm looking at the complement and page guidance that you gave out about 6 months ago. Is that still valid?
It is.
To discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than the professional competence of an individual. To consider the discipline and dismissal of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual. To discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the government's bargaining or litigating position. Also, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, to actually conduct collective bargaining and contract negotiations with non-union personnel, to discuss the deployment of security personnel or devices, for example, a sting operation, to investigate charges of criminal misconduct, or to discuss the filing of criminal complaints, to consider the purchase, exchange, taking, lease, or value of real property if such discussion may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the governmental body, to comply with the provisions of any general or special law or federal grant in aid requirements. There's two more. To hold an initial screening, including interviews if they are part of the initial screening process, by a preliminary screening committee or a subcommittee appointed by a governmental body of candidates for employment if an open meeting would have a detrimental effect in obtaining qualified candidates. To meet with a mediator regarding any litigation and decision. So the reason I bring this up, Mr. Chairman, is it's very important that we act only under those guidelines, or this governmental body has problems later on down the line before we move into executive session. Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask the town administrator to also clarify the letter that was sent out, although it's signed by our administrative assistant, it was on his behest describing the auspices under Mass General Law that's referenced in the letter.
The question that came up earlier about whether this is a dangerous dog hearing. And so the letter that was sent out to the Ciccirellis references Chapter 140, Section 157 of the Mass General Law. And that law very clearly states one of the things that the board may consider is a dangerous or nuisance dog. So that's included within the context of the notification. That notification is suitable, in my opinion, in terms of providing notice to all parties that this, in fact, is a dangerous dog hearing.
Mr. Joseph.
A couple of questions. One, was the dog was your dog that was involved Chance?
Yeah.
Okay. And in your version of the events, what happened on that day?
Brian was not present. He was in the back on a ladder.
Yeah.
I had just pulled in the garage, so the garage door did open. When I went into the house, I had closed the garage when I came home. Bikes started showing up. Avery's friends, motorcycles. The garage door got open again. Avery came out with Chance. She went to go tie him. We have a leash against the garage door that has a collar on it, because he comes out with one collar on, which is the shock collar, and then we bring him out to the door before he goes out, and we put the other collar on it.
Which collar is the electric fence collar?
The one that's on the wall.
Okay.
But we have the controlled electronic one. That is on him at all times.
And did you use that on this day?
Yes. Well, after she put the remote down to put the collar on him when Chance saw the dog and ran. So by
Okay.
the time we were realizing what was going on and all the commotion, we grabbed for the remote and was pushing it. But he was already at the dog.
Okay. So, I want to make this simple, because it really is simple. During that time, you did not have control of Chance. Is that correct?
No.
That's not correct?
No, it's correct.
It is
I didn't
correct,
have
okay.
control. He left the yard.
Okay, thank
Left
you.
my presence, he was still in the yard. He was still on the grass. When the attack happened, it happened on the grass and it ended up on the sidewalk.
Okay.
And as for her statement that Mr. Ciccarelli, being an EMT and sitting in a chair, is 100% wrong. He was in the house with the dog, making sure he was okay because he had blood on him. Her dog did not, my dog did, so he was questioning it.
My dog did have blood on her.
Question, is Catherine Street, where you live, close to 20 Ash Street?
It's probably about a mile away, I would guess.
Say again?
I would guess it's about a mile.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Board members, any questions?
Just,
But Mr. Sullivan?
if I can ask Mr. Joseph, does it matter
What?
how far?
No, I'm just curious if this is the first time or many times that you've walked in front of that address. Is it many times, and has this ever happened before? Or is this the first time, and it clearly happened?
Yes, sir. I've walked down that street several times, and I have never seen those dogs out in that yard.
Okay, that's the point I'm trying to get to, and I want you to know this, because I can't make a motion during a public hearing, is that the dog was not under the Ciccarelli's control. In my opinion, that is contrary to the agreement that we reached, and therefore it's appropriate for the Board of Selectmen to take an additional action, which the board can discuss once the public hearing is over.
Okay.
I've never lied to you, never.
Okay, we take
Can I
public comment.
Can I ask a
Yeah,
question?
Carrie, go ahead.
I have a question. Mr. and Mrs. Ciccarelli, did you install the humane aerial run in your backyard?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I was just looking at some things from this letter.
Yeah, we've been there and looked at it, yep.
I wasn't here then.
Okay, no, we have,
No,
we've
yeah,
seen
yeah.
it.
Yeah, we knew that.
Jen? Okay.
Anybody like to speak on this issue, since it's a public hearing?
I have a document that I would like to submit to the board. if
Okay,
I may.
Brian? Yeah.
This is one of the reasons why I wanted an executive session, but I'm willing to bring this out publicly.
I think we've all had a chance to read it.
Yeah, we have this, Brian.
It's a sign.
We read it. Okay, this is
So
original.
you got it.
Is that an email?
This is the one in your packet.
Oh, okay, yep, yep.
Mrs. Katz, come on up.
Something real quick. I live at 22 Ash Lane where these attacks.
What's your name?
Robin Katz. Robin Katz.
Okay, thank you.
I live at 22 Ash Lane. My daughter saw this attack, my 11-year-old, who knows your 11-year-old.
Does this have to do with this
Yes.
event on August 15th?
It does. My
Good.
daughter saw the entire attack. She is now afraid to go outside because of these dogs.
Is she here to tell us
She's 11
that?
years old, and I did not bring her
How
here.
old is she?
She's 11.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay? And she's afraid to go out in our yard. And my dog passed away a few years ago. We want to get a new dog, but I will not get a new dog with these dogs next door. And I just wanted to say that because I think it's awful.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Katz.
Her daughter reached out to my daughter after the attack when we got home on social media to let her know, hey, MJ, are you okay? I saw what happened. Is your dog okay?
Okay. Anybody else like to comment?
So just point of
Hi,
note,
Brian.
the children have been playing in the backyard volleyball at 22 Ash Lane.
Prior to that attack.
Just saying.
Hey, you know what? This isn't a free-for-all,
Thank you.
okay? What we want is we want to know the facts of what occurred. Not hearsay, firsthand eyewitness facts to what occurred on the 15th. We know what we did back in January. We know what the standards are that we had set. We're not dummies. We will know individually whether or not the standards we set back in January for the Ciccarellis for chance have been upheld or not. So if you're going to have a conversation, make sure it's about what happened on the 15th and no banter back and forth, okay?
Okay.
Can you clarify from my knowledge how many times this dog has attacked another dog or a human?
More than once.
Okay, that could be several, that could be five.
Yeah, it could be.
So how many times has this dog actually attacked another animal or another human? I think I have the right to know that.
The dog has never attacked a human.
Thank you.
Yes,
And the other question?
Animal control officer, you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I know, and I have record of 4 different dogs that have been attacked by chance. There's also been 2 Ciccarellis that were injured trying to break up. Those are the only incidences that I know about
Are those 4?
of those 4.
That includes this one?
Correct.
Okay.
And you have all the documentation.
Yep.
You do.
Mr. Chair, not to go back,
Mr. Sullivan?
there was some question at the January meeting, what dog caused the injury to what person while the incident was being resolved, I believe. Wasn't there some question as to, for the incident that, one of the incidents you're referencing, when I know somebody was bitten while they were pulling the dogs apart, we didn't know who
did what?
That, I think that's what Jen had said at that time. And there were injuries, but just was a question of
Correct.
how.
Yeah, because the injuries occurred while the two dogs were being separated. So who knows 100% who actually did
Right.
it. I wasn't there.
Right.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in from the public?
Chairman, I'm going to ask that we close the public hearing.
Okay. No, nothing else. We'll close the public hearing at 7:30 PM.
Chair, can I ask the administrator what our options are?
Yes, I was going to ask the same thing.
So
Okay.
you may, as a result of this hearing, you may determine whether the dog meets the standard under the law of being a dangerous dog. You previously determined back on the 23rd of January of 2017 that the dog was a nuisance dog, but did not at that time meet the standard for what was considered to be a dangerous dog. So if you determine the dog to be a dangerous dog, you may then determine what the appropriate action that you want to take with regard to the dog, and then determine what the time frame would be in terms of implementation of those actions. The dog is presently in custody of Dudley Animal Control, and I would urge, as part of any motion, that Dudley Animal Control remain in custody of the dog until a date to be determined. I think that releasing the dog back into the neighborhood is not something that we would recommend at this time.
Thank you, Barry.
Is that within our authority, Mr. Chairman?
You can extend the quarantine order, so the order, the animal control has the ability to issue a 10-day order, and upon expiration of that, I would urge the board to extend that.
Mr. Joseph?
Having pretty much had a dog and now having Pomeranians for most of my adult life and my youth, I would never want to part with them easily. The last time we had the hearing, we knew the dog was a nuisance. You did too. You knew what you had to do, and you did it. And you agreed that the dog would always be under your control. You didn't intentionally not meet that standard, but you weren't able to meet that standard, and the dog attacked again. And I'm going to tell you, I had a lot of tough calls in 14 years as a selectman, and this one bothers me as much as any of them. But I'm going to move that we authorize the dog officer to continue the dog in her custody under quarantine, and that the dog either be removed out of state, cannot be moved anywhere in Massachusetts under the law, be removed out of state within 10 days, or that the dog be euthanized. That's my motion.
Motion by Mr. Joseph. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Sullivan.
Quick
Discussion?
question.
Go ahead.
To the administrator. Do we have any, if this motion passes and the dog is removed, do we have any, are we exposing ourselves to any kind of liability if something were to happen in a different jurisdiction?
I think so.
Say again?
I think so.
You think we do have?
Yeah, you heard the words this evening that the residents feels that the board has some responsibility. If you just simply move the dog onto another community, then you run the risk that you simply just transfer the problem to another town.
Okay, let me ask this then, Greg.
Yeah.
Sally, John.
Good call.
If the dog were to be relocated, who would do the relocating? The current owners or the dog officer?
Well, generally, we're not in the business of relocating, but given the gravity of the situation, I'd have some real reservations about the owner relocating the dog. It would have to be done by the town, or a similar type of shelter agency.
And it's your opinion that if we did have him relocated to another location outside of the state, that we would still bear some liability?
I think so. I think that the liability extends beyond state lines. State line just happens to be immediately to our south. The law was written in a way that it shouldn't be transferred to any other city or town in Massachusetts. I think that a lawyer, if the dog were to cause a problem in the future, I think a lawyer would
Okay,
seize
so
on
my
that.
last question, if I may, is,
Go ahead, Paul.
are you recommending that we take that out of the motion?
I am.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend my motion with only with the okay of the seconder, and that is that the dog remain in quarantine in the possession of the town dog officer, and that the dog be euthanized.
Second for discussion. Again to the administrator. A couple part question. What is we're not giving legal advice, what hypothetically is Ciccarelli's avenue of appeal if they disagree with any action tonight?
To the courts.
And second, in light of the,
A judge can prevent the board or issue an injunction, which would prevent the euthanasia pending some type of civil matter being heard before the judge, and then ultimately, the judge has the ability to either uphold the board's order or overturn it.
okay, then also, again, in light of information Mr. Ciccarelli provided tonight that we already had a copy of,
Correct.
how, again, we're not in the, give legal or any kind of specialist opinion, how do we handle that? Is that something that would be part of any appeal that they would?
Yeah, I would suggest that any letter claiming medical condition, we're not here to kind of sit judge and jury over that. We're not qualified to make those decisions.
Right.
I think that that's something that if there's an appeal of the board's decision, the judge or the court may want to entertain that letter and ask someone to come in and testify on its behalf. But the person who wrote that letter is not here, and I would suggest that the board not give it the weight that's been requested this evening.
So, to be clear, we can make a decision tonight, there is an avenue if either party doesn't agree, right? If the motion were to be defeated, does the complainant have a right to?
I've never seen that. I've only seen it the other way, where the dog owner appeals the decision of the board. I've never seen it where there's an instance where a resident who was aggrieved, as the complainant, would bring it to the court.
And obviously, you clarified that second question is supposed to have no bearing on what this board decides.
Well, if the motion to euthanize the dog is defeated, then the board still has an obligation and duty to take some action.
Correct, no, I understand that. I mean,
Right.
I just didn't know.
And
I'm not predicting which way the vote's gonna go either. I just want people to understand that. I'm just trying to think what's next. I agree with the town administrator, regardless of documentation presented tonight, that even if we did no action tonight and said, give us a week to think about it, I think we should extend the quarantine. I firmly believe the dog should be under care, control, and custody of the ACO at this time, no matter what we decide. I just wanted to, I guess,
Do you want,
get things out of my
let me
head.
ask you this, Sally, would it make, if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yep, go ahead.
Would it be better, would you be more comfortable if we said that the dog would be quarantined for X number of days? And at that time, that the dog would be euthanized? Would that be closer to what you are looking for or thinking about?
Wasn't that part of your original motion, really, for X?
I'm not making a motion, I'm just asking.
No, I'm really, I'm with you, Paul. I've been here 13 years, and we've had a lot of tough things, and this is tough.
Yeah, it is.
It's tough.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead, Mike.
This is to the dog officer and the assistant dog officer. Has there been a problem with my dog mingling or being any issues with all the dogs that are currently under your care at the Dudley Dog Pound?
I can answer. I've had the dog since Tuesday, when the incident occurred. I took custody of the dog approximately 8 p.m. As of today, I was down there around 1 o'clock this afternoon, I have had no incidents with Chance being any type of aggressive. I have 3 other dogs down there, and he doesn't even bat an eye to. Walks right past him, goes out, does his business. I mean,
Well, the issue here is not
No, I
while-
understand
is not
that.
while the dog is under your custody.
Right.
It's under, while they're
and
under
I
the
understand that,
Chipperelli's
but I just,
Well, let me say this, that, I
The
mean, that-
environment he's used to.
yeah,
being
I
in.
mean, that's not a surprise,
right,
but it's not relevant.
correct,
Because the dog doesn't own the kennel, it's not his home.
correct. But I just,
20 Ash Street is his home.
right.
And that's where the problem is, that he doesn't want any other dog coming anywhere near it.
But I, as animal control officer, I haven't had any issues with
Okay.
it down there, that's all.
Thank you.
I
Terry?
think- I'm sorry, Carrie.
Mr. Town Administrator, I have a question. I just want to be clear on this. So if we were not to, if this motion that's on the table right now failed, and the dog was returned to their home, whatever measures were in place, if this happened again, could we, the board, or the town be liable?
Well, there's always the risk of liability, no matter what decision you make. People can sue you or sue the
Yeah, you
town
can
for a
sue them.
variety of reasons, whether they have merit or don't have merit. I mean, we defend a lot of what I would call the suits that don't have merit. I'm not saying that people before you wouldn't have a case, but no matter what decision you make, there's always something that's open. I thought you were gonna ask me if what would happen if the motion was defeated, could you enact any additional sanctions? And you could.
That was my...
You could.
That was my...
I mean, you could require that the yard be fenced, fully fenced. You could require that the dog never be outside the fenced area. I mean, whatever those decisions are, you could decide you want to do that. If the motion didn't pass, and I would urge you, if the motion doesn't pass, you still need to take some type of positive action.
Tully, you?
Yeah, I would like to see the motion be more, I don't know if specific's the right word, to somehow include language that says, under care and control of the town until all avenues, any and all avenues of appeal from either the complainant or the owner is resolved. I don't want to say we hold it for 10 days and good luck.
21?
Well, I don't know how fast things can be heard. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what's prudent. I don't know if we have the ability to hold it
We could say,
6 months till maybe there's an appeal heard.
Well, that's why,
Delaying any action
to
of any
kind of
kind.
push the issue, you wanna do it for a limited time, which gives the owner an opportunity to go to court and get a court order and an injunction pending a hearing. And in the absence of that order and injunction, the action of the board would then be completed at the end of the
That's
10-day
what I'm saying.
period. You know, said, I don't think anyone wants to extend it, and then, as you know, the courts are tied up, and they
Right,
get
8
busy,
months.
and people go away, and they say, 6 months from now, we still have a dog. which Mrs. Fitzgerald is responsible for taking care of. I don't think we want to be in that situation.
What does it cost? How much do we charge to board a dog for a day?
Just if it's boarding overnight, it's $10.
Okay. Let me suggest this. Now, I'm trying to find a happy medium.
And I'm not trying to play kick the can with the decision.
Oh.
I mean, I'm comfortable making a decision tonight, but I just,
I think we should vote to have the dog quarantined and housed at the owner's cost by the Dudley Animal Control Officer until such time as legal resources, or legal recourses, rather, of the parties involved are exhausted, and failing for any resolution at that time, to have the dog euthanized.
so,
You want to go to that again?
Yes, because I'm quite confused on that.
so the first motion would be withdrawn.
Yeah, I would withdraw it if it's okay with you. And we would, and again, I'm just trying to bounce to get, like we did the first time in January, a medium that we can live with, that's fair but appropriate. So the motion is that the dog would be housed and quarantined by the Dudley Animal Control Officer at the expense of the owners until such time as the parties have exhausted legal recourse, and failing any action or resolution, that the dog be euthanized at that time.
So you're giving the opportunity for an appeal, basically?
Yep.
Right, and with a second, Mr. Chair. and
Second by Mr. Sullivan. Check discussion.
So, it's not an open-ended quarantine, it's just, it'll, motion to be, to amend, add to the motion be within 10 days of the.
There's got to be a
court-
time-bound element
Of any court action?
Don't put any days on it, because they're not stupid. They know that the longer it takes for them to file an appeal or take action, if they decide it, the more it's going to cost them to keep that dog housed and fed by the animal control officer. So they're not going to dilly-dally on that if they're
First
going
off,
to appeal.
it's not even a cost issue.
Okay.
Dilly-dallying, holding my dog. What we have here is, the town is advised a court order that it doesn't exist this evening. The letter that you have, I'm pretty insulted by the town administrator saying it has no merit here. It's from a licensed doctor. I have been working with the dog. I have a medical issue. And for you to say it has no merit, the last time we went through this, we had a bunch of experts here, and no one wanted to hear from them. So I don't know what the town wants. What we are in the process of doing is, I got a $10,000 quote from Charlton Fence to put in a complete fence in my yard. I'm waiting on a second quote from a guy out of Sturbridge that would just put in one at 18 Ash Lane. I got dogs that live all around me that don't have issues. Deb LaPlaca, who works for the TNG, lives next door to me. This young lady who had a problem, that my dog grabbed her golden retriever, didn't grab her little dog that was with her. My dog has a problem with golden retrievers, and this is based upon the harassment and the lack of care of the Davies that has brought us here. So the sense is I have issues, I have problems. This dog is sitting in front of you under your control. So euthanizing a classified service dog is an ADA regulation. What I'm looking to do is to put in a fence, because we did speak about this, Mr. Joseph. If I was to appear back in front of you.
It was extensive cost, all right? And this was, what you did was your solution instead of doing that, in lieu of doing that.
That was our first motion, first
Right?
time.
Remember that?
Fence.
Here's the problem. You've got to stop this dog from, and you've been given opportunities 4 times, to stop this dog from attacking other dogs, regardless of what the breed of the dog is that he attacks, all right? He is attacking other dogs. We reached a solution last time, and that was that you would control him at all times. You did not control him. So you're either gonna have to put up a fence, and then that becomes a legal issue between you and your neighbors, and I mean a fence, all right, and go through that cost, and that's your prerogative if it will safely restrain the dog you love. And if you don't do that, then the problem has to be removed. It's not complicated.
I understand that, but the dog is a classified service dog, one, from a doctor. Two, we are gonna be putting in a fence at our cost.
Are you willing to do that at this point?
We're working on it.
We're 2 months into it.
Well, you know what? Let's do this. And again, if we take this action on the motion, we're stating our position, we're making sure it's under control. At that time, you will come up with a solution, or you won't, and in which, or you'll take legal action, or you won't. It's exhausted, or it's not, and then we have an action that we have agreed to take if it's not resolved. I mean, it's not like nobody's being warned here. Everybody's being warned. You know? We can't have this go on anymore. We can't. So I would ask that we reread the motion and consider it.
Okay.
All right?
What was it again, Paul?
How are you on it, Mish? That the dog
Not be
housed
housed and quarantined by the ACO, paid by the owners. until
at the
such
owner's
time-
expense
Until such time the parties have exhausted their legal recourse.
and absent a resolution,
Yep.
the dog will be euthanized. There's no time limit on it.
I have no idea what that means.
So if we don't come up with,
It's a process that you are given the opportunity to appeal if you decide to, which is your right. All right? And we will wait until that legal process is completed. And if it's completed in your favor, the judge says you can have a dog if you fence it a mile high, or the judge says, no, that's not good enough, then the dog will be euthanized. That's our motion. If you can't find a solution that's approved or accepted and gives you recourse by a judge. That's all it says.
Mr. Valiakonis, what's your opinion on the motion?
I just kind of like to see a time frame involved with it.
Say again?
I'd just like to see a time frame involved
I
with
would
it,
too.
Paul. I mean,
Gotta be time.
the problem is that you're at the mercy of the courts, and I don't know the law well enough in terms of whether your decision needs to be appealed within a certain number of days. A lot of times when you do a special permit.
See,
it
I
has
don't
to-
want to put an arbitrary number on it because I don't know how long it takes.
But the challenge is, say there's nothing in the law that says, a special permit has to be appealed within 20 days. Say the law is silent, you could appeal it 6 months from now. You could appeal it 3 months from now. You know what I'm saying? There needs to be, it needs to be on the owner to decide. It needs to be appealed within 10 days, 14 days. But I wouldn't really go much longer than that, Paul, because again, the owner has the opportunity to go to court on their initiative with a lawyer and get an injunction.
Well, you know what? It's a good thing we don't win or lose elections based on the number of motions we make. I just want to get it right. I want it to be fair. So if we change it to state, dog will be housed, kenneled, and fed by the ACO at the owner's cost on a daily basis. It'll be quarantined, rather, and kenneled by the ACO at the owner's cost, and that the owners have 10 days to appeal this decision, all right, and failure to do so, or pending litigation, the dog will be euthanized.
So,
That amended to-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get it right. I don't know what the hell it's gonna look like, but I'm trying to get it right, you know?
So this board is voting to euthanize my dog unless the court says otherwise. So we're gonna put a service dog down based upon a judge's ruling.
With all due respect, what this dog is right now and what it's doing has nothing to do with service.
Oh, I believe it does.
Who's it servicing?
Yeah. Are you there at night?
Well, no, I don't think you want me there at night. But what does that got to do with, how is the dog servicing you, Brian? What's that?
I think what we're saying is the service
No,
dog.
I didn't. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen
The
it.
service,
The service dog, what you're thinking and what,
I completely get it, but the service dog can't bite people or can't bite other dogs. No matter how much of a benefit it is, we have to get, right, but we need to protect other dogs and other
Right.
people from it. We have to take action.
You know what? Let's let the
whether
courts
it's-
decide.
Whether it's agreeable that it's a service dog, which I agree 100%, we still have to protect other people and other dogs as they go by.
I know. This is an example,
It has
Brian.
nothing to do with
No.
whether you're getting a benefit from the dog or not. It has everything to do with what we have to do to protect people and other dogs from that dog. So this gives you the opportunity to seek other legal remedies, right, as opposed
Yeah.
to us just taking a blanket
is
action right now.
Exactly.
Best we can do. Well, you have to act.
tomorrow.
You have to act.
Get one tomorrow, but if the courts don't do anything for 2 weeks, then what?
Well, if you listen to my motion, the final one, you'll see it says that you have to file within 10 days and pending a legal decision. All right, so if there's a legal decision pending after action's been taken, and then we would not have the dog euthanized until that legal decision was reached. I mean, once they've exercised their rights. But that's what I'm moving, and that's what I want to see done. I think we got it finally right.
Okay. All right.
I think the answer to Mrs. Ciccarelli's question is, we certainly don't expect a legal resolution in 10 days. I mean, I would strongly recommend if you go, you're gonna get something from the court saying you were there, just to bring a copy to the office for our file, and I'm not trying to split hairs, service dog, and if the dog has some kind of protection in the eyes of the court, then that's well outside my realm of knowledge, expertise.
Court will decide that. We're not qualified to decide that. So we got a motion, what are we doing?
Call to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
So how is it recorded? As unanimous vote?
5-0.
Okay.
Brian, this is one of those things, this is the hardest thing, my stomach is in knots right now. And the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few here.
Just on record that the police department did not support me or do what the court ordered, and the town administrator made a absolutely disgusting comment that my doctor's note doesn't have any resolution to this. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ms. Levasseur.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move that the,
Public business, Paul, section 9?
no, we were on, I thought we were on.
I already closed the hearing.
Don't yell at
We
me.
just did 8. I'm going to move that we grant permission for the Board of Health to spend $310 to pay Harrington for health services in June of 2017.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Ruda. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 9C, Board of Selectmen, we talked about appointments and vacancies, and how many that we have open at this time. Greg, Michelle, I think Steve, you would ask for
I
this.
asked for an agenda item, Mr. Chair, because I'm gonna say it wrong, so I'm gonna ask Mr. Joseph to help me out. When people have a issue of expediency based on time, which has no bearing on us, it's not our fault.
Yeah, right.
You have a quote that you always use, but if we have boards with vacancies that are affecting business, especially the ZBA that was brought to our attention, I want to say at the 23rd hour, how come we didn't know months ago that they were running short? Because there was something about a 3-month, implied consent. These boards have to let us know, especially if they're appointment positions. We have to act on these, because things can happen. In other boards, the FEA's running 5 or 6 members short.
You know what, let's think out of the box, Sully. I think you hit the nail on the head, all right? If Mohammed won't go to the mountain, what a great analogy at this point, then let's bring the mountain to Mohammed. And that is simply this: if the people won't come, let's do a spot indicating the number of positions we've got open, the kinds of things that those committees do, and asking people or giving them instructions on how to apply. Let's try to bring the mountain to them. Let's do our own little ad, our own little commercial with a script, and let's get it done.
Sounds like a good idea.
I mean, we just look at the most recent elections, the last 2 or 3. We have
Yep.
not one, but sometimes 2 positions on elected boards. And I know it's a big time commitment, and people, I'm sure you guys get the same comments I get. I can't believe you guys do it. We have boards that, you know, people are winning with 11 write-in votes.
Well, they just see what we just did, and they understand how this isn't just something
Yeah,
to do.
I think Sully's right. We can't keep doing things the way we have and expect them to change.
And I want to thank
Sanity, right?
Town Michelle, our administrative assistant. Greg was out at a rather joyous event, I believe. And I want to thank her for putting together that matrix and sending it to me, because you start looking at those positions, there's some important positions in town that we all, you know, I guess we have to go solicit people. We do. I mean, Mr. LePage got his son involved. I mean, that's what, my son got involved. That's what it takes. We got to fill these slots. We can't keep, like as Paul said, kick the can down the road to the next guy. So that was my big thing. I want to get it out there that we got spots, people that have financial knowledge we can use. We can use anybody. You don't have to have financial knowledge. But if you do, it's a benefit. We have room on the ZBA still. We have a lot of positions that we control through appointments that we got to fill. That's all.
And you got to come into it with no hidden agenda.
I was just gonna say that, Bob.
And you got
Were
to
you?
know,
I was just gonna say that.
Ooh, my ears were burning.
you got to know it is a time commitment.
Time commitment, you're doing it for the right reasons, you wanna help your town and give back. I mean, I always talked about, you know, just give something back, you know? Give your time, gift of your time.
So why don't we have a town meeting on October 30th?
I think we have one.
That's a great idea.
Another one?
It's our scheduled fall town meeting.
Mr. Chair, make a motion that we set the date for the fall town meeting of Monday, October 30th, 2017. And historically, we do 7 o'clock,
7 PM.
with a selectmen's meeting usually beforehand, 6:30.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sullivan, seconded by Mr. Sigenovich, and I think it's 6 o'clock we do that one, Michelle, right? At
We do
Shepherd
special.
Hill.
6, we do it as a 6. All right.
Did we vote on that?
Nope. All in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Ruda.
Student rep.
just to go back to C for a minute, because you don't call me for anything.
Mr. Ruda.
Go back to what?
To item C. One thing I do want to bring up is that we switched from elected to appointed constables a year or 2 ago. And I want to make sure that we're not classifying, when that elected term is expired, I don't want to classify it as just a automatic reappointment. There's a reason we did that, and I know Mr. Valiakonis and the police chief are going to work on that, or are working on it, is that we want to have a criteria for someone who carries a Dudley constable badge, or any Dudley badge. There has to be a basic minimal criteria that we have to develop before we make an appointment to that position. So I just want to make sure that doesn't slip through the cracks.
And, you know, I would agree with Mr. Ruda, because he and I have been talking about it too. I think the excellent point is we do the appointment, and the person auspices would fall under the police chief or his designee. You know, I mean, I don't have time to have someone call me and say, so-and-so really a constable, because someone came to my house, you know what I mean? If the person's they carry a badge, right, it says constable.
Supposed to.
Some kind of identification. I think there's our law enforcement.
Right, so maybe it's a civil situation where it kind of falls under the town administrator, but any supervisor on the police shift
Right.
to that time,
Or designate, yeah.
to some degree, a police chief has to be in charge of the constable. If there's a constable out, the police need to know about it.
Correct. I mean, we did it with the lifeguards several years back with Fire Chief McDonald. We put the lifeguard on, we hire them, we interview them, personnel board, and we put them under the fire chief, because that's where they, you know, the chief, police down there with their, obviously with their patrols, but I don't have the expertise to, you know, we had an issue a couple of years ago. I don't want to go into names, but someone brought a complaint forward to me, to the chief. One of our constables was on Facebook holding an AR-15 with a hat that said Dudley Constable. I mean, that doesn't mean he brought the AR-15, but, you know, it was, you know, deemed not a threat. But it was enough that somebody saw it and said, what the heck's going on? So, I mean, just,
Right.
you know, just things, we need to streamline the process and set up a nice chain.
Yeah, let's go at it a different way.
But I agree with Mr. Ruda, we definitely need basic qualifications and
For that position, yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
that's-
I absolutely agree with that.
Okay.
that's the guy to do it.
Progress it'll be.
Great.
And
Thank
we
you.
expect a report in 2 meetings? Is that enough, a month, you think?
Yeah, I think
Who's
this
gonna
is-
give us a report?
Or between Greg
Greg
and
and Steve are gonna
Chief.
put something together.
Okay.
At least a preliminary, this is what we come up with
Okay.
for a job
Okay.
description.
Okay.
And I think number one gotta be, you need to prove without a doubt that you're a town resident. You can't have old driver's licenses, voter records.
Yeah, that's called being a jamoke. No jamoke supply.
8:05, we heard Jamoke for the first time. Right.
At least he didn't swear this time.
This is true.
But it's early.
Cockamamie's next.
But it's early.
Board members' comments?
Oh, student rep.
Student rep, we don't have one. Anything
coming
else
back?
on this?
He said he's coming back, right?
Yeah, he is.
He is. He's coming back, but school hasn't started yet. Next Tuesday for the kids.
Mr. Chair, I do, and I should have did at the beginning of the meeting because the
Go ahead.
person is gone. And I try to do this all the time, as you folks know. Assistant ACO Rob Fitzgerald, who's also a per diem paramedic, been on the department a lot of years. Lost 2 family members recently. I didn't realize he lost a second. He lost his nephew, and he lost his mother. And I wish he was here.
Who's that?
Rob, the assistant ACO who just left.
Yep.
I think I speak for the board and the entire town. We send out our condolences to him and his family. And I apologize, I'm usually more on top of those things, but
And Steve Rogerson, also our veterans agent, just lost his mom
I didn't see that.
this
Yeah, I missed
this
that one,
past
too.
weekend. She was 77, so he'll be here until the end of the week, and then he's going to be gone. She resided in Brookline, so he'll be with his family.
Oh, I did not know that.
He does a great job with our veterans.
One more comment, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I may be mad if I say it. I know I speak for the entire board. We send our congratulations to Mr. Balkunas on his recent nuptials.
Thank you, sir.
And he got married.
Yeah, and he looks happier.
Yeah, look at that.
Now he's got,
If only I could
Let's
lose
get this
the
nice
25
glow.
pounds, Paul.
now he's got 7 bosses.
Oh,
Plus 5,
That was
Michelle.
good. That
Plus
was
5,
good.
Michelle and
Michelle,
Stephanie.
no, it's
I
definitely.
got my daughter.
Yeah, but she's out of college.
Yeah, that's true.
Jonathan, anything?
Nope. Thanks.
Anything? Terry?
Nope.
Paul?
All set?
Okay. Departmental communications, chief? Okay, nothing? Okay,
Mr. Chair, make a motion, move into executive session under the auspices of Mass General Law, Chapter 38, subsection 21. 1, to discuss reputation, character, physical condition, mental health, rather than professional competence of an individual, or discuss discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges against a public officer, employee, staff member, individual. And 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate if the chair declares that an open meeting has a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body. And 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body and the chair so declares. And also, if necessary, we'll reconvene in open session to announce any decision that may be reached tonight. If not, we will not come back, at the discretion of the chair, we will not come back into.
We may
May.
reconvene.
Right, we may.
Right.
If not, at the discretion of the chair, at the conclusion of executive session, we'll conclude business.
motion by Mr. Sullivan, second by Mr. Sigenovich, roll call vote.
Paul Joseph, aye.
Kerry Sigenovich, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Good night, everybody. Thank you.